That movement is a lot.
In this video, we're going to talk about ABS and the misconception that it has to do with brake pads and rotors when it really doesn't. First, I'm going to show you how to look for the cause of the issue. And then I'm going to go over what actually activates the ABS system. And after that, I want to talk about the issues you might encounter by ignoring that ABS light. You have an ABS light on, right? And you think, my brakes feel good. I'm not like pulling anywhere. It's not activated, but the ABS light came on and my pedal's fine. It's not sinking down. So the misconception, like I was talking about, people think it's the rotors and the pads. Well, actually, that is like the end result of ABS, how it could damage them if you don't fix the issue. So what I want you to do first, if your ABS light's on, is go to our website and put your year, make, and model in, right? And then in the search bar, put ABS. That's it. Let's see what comes up. Do wheel bearing hubs come up? Does only ABS sensors come up? Does axles come up? Because the old school, they came with what you call an eccentric ring. And it was on the outside of the axle. Now, some of you are probably like, oh yeah, I used to have to deal with that a lot. And then they kind of moved away from those. Now it's all inside. So what I want you to do is first check your wheel bearing like we just did. You saw that play? You should have no play in any wheel bearings. Secondly, check your axles right here. If this had a ring on it, it would be located right here, and make sure the ring is good. I'll show you a little bit later what that ring looks like. And then thirdly would be the ABS sensor itself. And this sensor has a magnet in it that's going to pick up the pulse from either the magnet inside the bearing or the eccentric ring. So you're going to check the harness over and make sure it's connected. Believe it or not, I've seen people do work on cars and they disconnected that and then they forgot to connect it. Some ABS sensors are located, or slash speed sensors, are located in the truck differential, which is right here on this housing. Some are on the top. I've even seen them on the side of the housing, but this one's right here. And that means that there's two ABS sensors in the front and only one for the rear. And that's why they put it in the housing. So now that we did the visual check, and you went through, you checked your wheel bearing, has no play. You checked your eccentric ring, if you have one. It's not broken, and it's not clogged, it's not filled with rust. And you checked your ABS sensor, right? That wire going down, it's connected, there's no frays, and it's bolted in. So you didn't find anything wrong there. So now it's time to use one of these. Now make sure it says engine/ABS, because sometimes they just have engine readers and they don't have ABS included in it. So you can get one pretty cheap. Now you need to see what that code is. So another thing is, a lot of people don't realize that an ABS sensor is called a speed sensor also. So if it says rear speed sensor, left rear speed sensor, in-op, or open circuit, replace it, clear the code, and it doesn't come back, then you know they had internal brake, which you're never going to see. You're not going to see that magnet broken inside, and you're not going to see a broken wire unless you see a pinch on the outside. So now you did the visual like we said, first thing to do, and you do find that you have wheel bearing play. So now you have to determine what type of wheel bearing you have. Do you have a press-on, where you have a knuckle and it presses in with a hub in a lock ring, or do you have a bolted-on hub, which is obviously a lot easier than the whole press-in situation. The hub's already in there, and it just bolts onto the back of the knuckle. These you need a tool, special tool, whether it's a press or a bearing puller, and you need to do that. You got the ring locked in there. Then you have a hole on the other side where the ABS sensor goes in, and it picks up, this is the bearing, that's pressed in there, and the magnet will be sitting like here, say an opening, right on the outskirts here. Inside this housing that we can't see, there's a magnet, and it picks up the pulse, the two magnets, positive and negative, and they just pulse. And it says, okay, we're all set. This gets pressed into there, and it's all a lot of work. You can do it if you have a bearing press or a bearing tool. But the bolted-on one does the same thing if your car is equipped with it. And inside here, the sensor sits on the outside of it. We just click it into place, lock it in, and it will spin. It does the same thing inside, just easy to repair. Both of them are at 1aauto.com. And if you have the bearing type that gets pressed into the knuckle, we do sell the bearings separately. I strongly recommend getting the kit, getting the hub. Do it once, do it right, get the hub and the bearing together and a new lock ring. Put it all in, and you're ready to go. So some systems, if they don't have wheel bearings that pick up the ABS sensor, they actually have axles that pick up the ABS sensor. Now, these are what we call eccentrics on the inside of a rear axle for like a truck. And these, see how that one's damaged right there? Now, if the magnet pulse was picking it up on the edge, that would be missing. So that would send an ABS light. The ABS will pick up whether one wheel is sliding or one wheel might not be. Ice, rain, hydroplaning, or snow, they all have to be in sequence. And how it picks that up is by every single individual magnetic pulse. So let's talk about how ABS actually works. So I have the wheels here to show you in a sequence. Say you're going down the road, right? Now, say if I could spin these equally. They're going at the same speed. You're going in a nice forward line. They're moving along. Now, each one of those, while you're driving, unaware to you, that ABS module is picking up little pulses, right? Little magnetic, beep, 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 beep. Now, if your wheel bearing's bad like this one, that is breaking up that magnetic pulse. All of a sudden, the ABS module says, we have a problem. The signal over here is erratic. So it's boop, on goes your ABS light. It can mechanically apply the caliper and release the caliper for pressure inside the module. There's an ABS module where the brake fluid goes. And it releases and opens and closes valves. So the wheel releases, and it keeps your vehicle from going like this all over the place. It just makes it go straight. It might dance a little bit, and your brake pedal might pulsate. That's all perfect. It's doing its job. So I want to talk about what can happen if you let the ABS go without repairing it. So the damage you might do to the mechanical part, not just the light being on, but the mechanical part that could be in trouble that you're not paying attention to. Because, the brakes feel fine, right? But if you have that wheel bearing wobble, and this is what a knuckle is right here. It's a knuckle. This is what your tie rod in and your strut's attached to if you have a front wheel drive car. This bearing that I showed earlier, that gets pressed into the steel right here. It's pressed in. Then the hub goes on. There, looking a little familiar, starting to get there, right? And then this hub is what goes on the rotor, and it goes like that. You put your tires on, and you're ready to go down the road. Now imagine this bearing is worn out inside this hub. You saw that movement I had, right? Now this is going like this down the road. You're not going to feel it so much, but it's going to start causing problems with the brake pads because they ride right here inside the caliper bracket. And as this wobbles, it is going to start causing this pad to wear uneven. And then you're going to get a scraping sound, possibly. And it's going to be this side right here. What is it, caliper bracket? The pads sit inside there. This bracket is going to be riding on this rotor, but this is bolted to that knuckle, so it's not going to move. And this rotor is going to end up wearing a mark right into that caliper bracket. I've seen it. It was just a wheel bearing, but now it's a whole brake system. It's a caliper, 2 rotors, 2 sets of brake pads, the labor, a wheel bearing, hub. Now the price tag went up. So don't disregard lights that come on if everything feels good. There's a reason for it. So if you have a magnet that's not doing its job and you get in a panic situation, that wheel is going to lock up. These are all going to pulse, and it's going to whip you into the direction of whichever one is not working. So that's why it's kind of important to make sure you fix that for your safety and everyone else on the road. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell because then it turns on all your notifications and you won't miss any of our future videos. Thanks for watching. That's younger Sue. I would have been like this. And spun them, and I would have been like, my arms would have been like this big. And I'd have been, no, when you spin your wheels, this is what happens. Well, that's Sue's log on. Sorry.
Click right
here.
there.
And I made the video too. Yeah.